JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Friday, August 1st, 3:26 p.m. Talk quick about the markets. Some of the names I'm looking at go from there. S&P down about 1.5% or 1.6%. Nasdaq down 2%. Small caps down 2%. Just a rough session after this morning's jobs report, right? Which at first, nothing too crazy. 73,000 jobs created versus 110,000 estimates or 144,000 estimates, whatever, wherever you look, someone has a different kind of estimate or consensus. But then it's all about the backward revisions, right? And, back in May and uh, the previous months, you saw, oh, wow, strong jobs numbers. So it was kind of alleviated some concerns. And now you have backward revisions. So, nasty stuff. So pretty much eliminated a lot of almost 200 and something thousand jobs added. So those those months would have been like 14,000 ads and 19,000 ads. So you could see kind of a reason why there's weakness here today. So the concerning thing now is that we don't have a Fed. There's no Fed meeting till September. So we're going to go through August. September 1st, we're gonna have the jobs report again, and then we're gonna get inflation data twice. So it's yeah, it puts the markets kind of like in a precarious spot. And of course, you have POTUS today saying he's gonna fire the labor statistics person, whoever, saying the numbers are weak based on political motives, which is crazy. I try not to talk about that stuff. But now it you got the two ways to look at it, right? You got the wow, okay, tariffs, maybe, job market's cooling. If we inflate PC down a little tad hotter than expected yesterday, is this the start of the signs that okay, the tariff impacts are gonna have negative impact on the economy? Is this seasonality? Is it the summer? So certainly gonna be an interesting couple weeks coming up. Am I off audio? Should be. Can anybody? Do you guys hear me? Am I not here? Testing, testing. Okay. Huh. Maybe go in and out. Sorry about that, folks. So definitely gonna be interesting this weekend. I was talking on the rant this morning that it's gonna be a lot of FUD over the weekend. A lot of folks, we're probably gonna gap down Monday. Am I that certain? I don't know. I'm not here to pat myself on the back, right? So, I mean, here I was Tuesday. I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like there's going to be a pull at some point. I mean, I might have mentioned it last week once or twice, but I didn't really take action on it until this week when I finally got puts for the first time since April, right? And in hindsight, of course, timing was tough, right? Never wrong, just early. So if I had gotten the puts Thursday as opposed to Tuesday, things I guess would have been a heck of a lot more lucrative, but they still paid. And I hate, I always say, especially during the summer, right? It's a great conversation piece. You don't go to your to local barbecue and tell all your friends you have puts and you hope the market tanks Monday, right? That's just not, yeah. Everybody's I would say most people's financial condition and situation, a lot of it, especially retirement, 401ks, all that is based on how market performance is and assets, right? Your house, all that fun stuff. So when things go down, typically it's not good. So it's never fun to kind of like it's a tough emotional state because you have to balance things, right? You got to say, well, the market's going to sell off, but don't sell things in your retire IRAs or what. So it's a juggling act, right? So you got to be able to dislocate that from trading the market and have a plan and things like that. But anyway, we'll see how next week plays out. Lots of earnings next week. I think it's like 38% have already reported. I mean, there's a heck of a lot more names. I'll have the implied moves this weekend, but you have Uber, AMD, Plantier, Caterpillar, um, Shopify. You have some of the quantum names: Fubo, Celsius, Eli Lilly. Of course, TTD reports Thursday after the close. I'm trying to see some of these other names, but they're not popping up here. Block reports. And then I think there's a lot of biotechs too, right? Wayfair reports Monday before the open. Uh, so yeah, certainly going to be interesting here. You take a look at where the SPY is trading, and I think I had 618 or so on one of the ranges, and we came all the way down to that 619 and change earlier this afternoon. We'll see, if the market can hold gains, and then I'll have another range into next week. But yeah, hopefully took some some greed out of the market, right? All those folks who you have the fear and greed index, everything's just going nuts, the meme craze. It kind of takes the helium a little bit out of the balloon, and then maybe we can find some consolidation. Markets will find some footing. Disappointing this week, right? Nasdaq's going to be down over 2%, S&P 2%, small caps off over 4% this week. So yeah, just tough. Berkshire Hathaway is it's gonna be massive, right? So uh, the shareholder meeting, all that fun stuff. It's a lot of folks look at it as like a bellwether for what's going on, especially with Buffett holding so much cash now. But that was the same argument when things were, the SPY was at 480 in April. So uh, I tend not to. I don't pay too much attention to it over the week. I mean, I wouldn't say don't. It's not something it's not an event but the headlines, of course, I'll watch, um, and so it'll be interesting to see what they talk about. To me, I think the next big event's gonna be Jackson Hole, and I don't know if that's 3 weeks. So that'll be especially. You have to think if the market starts to really lose some ground and momentum, and the jobs report, the PCE data, and all the heat. Yet maybe there's going to be some emergency Fed cut by Jackson Hole. As crazy as that sounds, there's just too much time now, right? All right, so that's kind of overall market there. And then just take a look at the SPY here. I was talking about it on Tuesday, Wednesday, and even Thursday. We had those gap higher and then reverse the gains slow. That happened in slow motion on Tuesday and Wednesday, even with the Fed meeting. And then Thursday, it was in quick motion, right? Big gap, reversal, and then just continuation. I was saying it this morning too. It's like the market was selling off overnight because of tariffs. I'm like, I don't know if so much it's the tariffs. I mean, the state's been there forever, right? And then a lot of the deals have been worked out. So I don't think the drop dead date mattered too much. It just seems like this was the time. I don't know how to put it. And then the jobs report too. I mean, you had to know at some point or think that there's going to be a jobs report that's going to start to give the bears some ammunition, right? And I mean, this is it. This is everybody. Oh, I told you so. Here come the tariff impacts. And I keep saying I'm not naive enough to think that there can't be major impacts, right? But for me, the impacts have been muted somewhat, and the headlines haven't been muted, right? The people who think since April that we're in a recession. I mean, if you were back in April, you thought we were in a recession based on the headlines, and that hasn't been the case. Maybe we do in the coming weeks and months. I don't know, right? So I just continue to be open about both sides of the market for now. Hopefully, we find some footing next week, and then we'll get a little more bullish. Not holding a lot of positions most of my positions are far out, and I've already locked some profits in. So I'll just continue to play it like that, and then try to do some weeklies. All right, so that's rant on the overall market. Now just individual names, and Tuesday got those Broadcom and AMD puts, and then into the Fed, they were holding there. And I'm trying to think, was it Thursday morning? I think AMD went down to 160. I don't know, it dropped enough for my AMD puts to be up 100%. I didn't close them, and then both AMD and Broadcom went up. No, maybe that was Wednesday, and then they both went on a tear. And then after the Meta and Microsoft earnings, I went and got those Broadcom puts on Thursday morning. Again, who gets that? Market's soaring. Nasdaq's up 1%. Broadcom's at 306 all-time highs, or 303. And sure enough, boom, melts into the afternoon, hits lows. I closed some out for 100 over, and then some more for 200%, and then I held some into today. And I was on the rant this time yesterday afternoon. I think Broadcom was like 295 or something. I said I think it might go down to 285 tomorrow, so I'm going to hold the rest, even though they were still up a couple 100%. And sure enough, what's it do? Gaps lower, and actually went all the way down to 281 this morning, earlier today. But you gotta be crazy on a Friday option expiration to not take a 10 bagger, right? So locked some right at the open for close to 10 bags, or a little over, and then I took the rest off for over 10 bags. So I held those, and then not only that, the 280s came back, right? And they were green for a minute, and then you just know how things work, right? Well, when we have these gap downs, especially on momentum names, they'll hit lows and then they bounce and they just kill both sides. So didn't want to see those puts come back to life to lose those profits, so I closed those out too. And then I was able to salvage the AMD puts for pretty much flat, which is crazy, right? Considering coming into Thursday, you pretty much thought those are, well, I did, those are done. And then I went and flipped it around. So I tried to play Broadcom for back for upside. I thought possibility of going red to green. If it did, obviously the speculative calls would have paid just as much on the upside, but it found some pressure at 290, so I went and closed those out for a small gain. And then I tried Amazon, right? So Amazon, the numbers, great numbers, but everybody's looking under the covers and saying, oh, their web service, the cloud services margins are lighter than expected, and they're losing to Microsoft and blah blah blah. As so, I thought it was oversold. It looked like it was going to bounce. Got over 220. My calls were solidly green. Got close to a double, and then a reverse course that stalled as well. So closed those out, thankfully. And then I went into the Reddit trade, and ironically, I was staring at. I've been trading Reddit since April, or maybe before that. Uh, and I thought $200, but I looked at the 200 calls yesterday, and they were like a buck 40, and the stock's at 155, whatever, 160. So I passed, and then sure enough, monster earnings. I mean, just you look at Reddit, it's just a monster. And back at $100, there were bears on Reddit, the analysts and what have you, because they thought AI was going to eat into the business. And it's like the other way around. People are finding Reddit, and then they want the human element of interactions, right? And I think that's where Reddit continues to thrive, and they're going to continue to thrive. Just monster in all metrics, right? The growth rate, revenue, the revenue per user, just all that stuff, just not blowout quarter. Um, and I'm kicking myself. I miss the chance? And then when at the open, you look, stock's up 20%. The 200 strikes are flat, right? So I was patient. I waited, and finally it was like 185, 184. I was actually looking at the 200s. They were 20 cents. I missed, and I went and got those for 37 cents. And then the rest is history. Rallies up. I closed some for 100%, and more for 400%. Then I closed the last out for 100%. I'll revisit at some point. I mean, it's down here at 187. I don't want to hold too much risk into the weekend. So just it's probably like a $250, $300 stock before the year's out if the market doesn't get too crazy, right? If there's not a tremendous sell-off. So that's Amazon, that's Reddit. JOBY, great day. I mean, considering the market's down nearly 1.5%, JOBY is solidly green. Great news. Who knows what that all looks like next week, and how people going to value the company based on the possibility that's going to do get into the defense side of the business. I just what addressable market that opens up. What does that look like? What's their plans? So I think we'll find out more. I don't know when we'll find out. I got to find out when their earnings are. But I'll just continue to hold my October strikes. I got all the way up to $18 afternoon, and then reversed a dollar down under 17. It's just treading water here at 17.30. I was actually looking to add some more serve robotics calls today. I was looking to get some more September strikes because my September 15s are a little underwater. The September 14s looked interesting. They're actually less expensive than when I got the September uh, uh, 15s. I still have the August strikes too. So I'll just, it just, I'm just going to be patient for now, just because I think there'll be more opportunities to add some. But I love that story. Nobody thought it's there. I'm trying to think of some of the other names today and this week. Yeah, so next week, I mean, TTD's hanging in there all the way down to $82 at 10 o'clock. And it's kind of like, I don't know if I'd call it relative strength. I mean, it's still down 1.4%, but certainly interesting. Oh, and then Roku, right? I mean, I mentioned it on a watch list this morning, and then on the rant. It's like, almost seems like, and I tried to do it last earnings, right? When it had the dip, and then it bounced, right? And then for weeks it bounced. It's like the market's pricing it in to eventually not be, I wouldn't say relevant, but for their growth to never get to the point where it's a monster stock, right? Monster company. Maybe it's a $30 stock for the rest of its time as a publicly traded company, or it gets acquired. I don't know. I just seems like every time they have a great quarter, they raise guidance, and then the stock just fizzles. I mean, it's down 14%, and it was a beat and a raise, right? With all great metrics. With the buyback, right? They authorized a $400 million share buybacks. I just, when it gets to that point, it boggles my mind. It's probably a sign to say, okay, try not to trade it. And probably that's the sign that there's a buyout imminent. But for now, I just have the August 15s. I locked, thankfully the premiums went up yesterday on the 125s. I got some out, but I only have to stare at those for a little while. Anyway, have a great weekend, folks. I'll be back rock and roll.